What I'm going to do is continue with the writing process as far as suggestions for the later stages of the writing process. So we'll make a timeline. And in fact, we'll make two timelines. One will be on the writing process, and the other will be on working to get things published. The whole point is that you can work on getting something published even if you're in the early stages of writing the information. And essentially that means being familiar with the journal, with the expectations of the journal and the formats. Journal editors are ultimately responsible to the readers. And you can learn a lot about what the readers care about of a given journal, for instance, in looking at the letters to the editor. So ultimately, again, I want to emphasize, you want to get a sense of the readership of a given forum. Likewise, early on, you want to look at what's called the Information to Authors page. And you can find these online now. You type the Information to Authors and the name of the journal, and you're a mouse click or two away. And even though it seems kind of basic stuff, like they want it double-spaced and margins like this and small stuff, you can get at least put it in the format that is conducive to that paper, that manuscript being sent out to the reviewers. If in the writing process you're going to trust what I say about using writing as a tool for thinking, I'm going to put, like, say, the first third of it as that free writing process. Again, creating a body of work from which you can come up with better ideas, see patterns in your ideas. But at a certain point, informed by the format of a given article, you ultimately want to come to a first draft. It, I should mention, helps if you early on set yourself some milestones, especially if you're writing with co-authors. With co-authors, you want to decide who is going to write what section and by when, and have a regular meeting time. Maybe it's going to be first every Monday morning, or every twice a month on Mondays. But if you have a regular meeting time where a clear set of expectations, who's going to do what, by when, it makes writing as a group a lot easier. It would be important to establish the order of the authorship also early on also, so that you don't have to fight about that later. So you get a first draft. You have an opportunity for the other authors to give feedback and review that first draft, but very important, you do want to establish a system of feedback, whether it be your mentors, whether it be other classmates, senior mentors, junior mentors. The idea is that you would send them that manuscript and you'd tell them the purpose, and you would ask them for ways to improve that manuscript. So if you're going to get that feedback, then you should plan on time that you can revise that information. You're getting close to submission now, and oftentimes it used to be a cover letter you'd include, but now really it's just a box in the electronic upload submission site where you would have an opportunity to include some comments that accompany that submission. Thinking back to our feature benefit model, I can give you a very quick outline for a cover letter, very simple. First is to tell the purpose. You're writing to submit, you've uploaded this article, and you hope that they would consider it for review and publication. And then here's your opportunity to suggest why that issue is important to who? To the readers of that journal. So these sentences might be a few sentences. You don't want to go more than a page or a couple of paragraphs, but they can come straight from your manuscript itself, probably. You can copy and paste them in there, And the idea is that you would give that associate editor a reason to send it off to 2 reviews and get it in the review process. It's very rare to get an article submitted on the first submission anymore. And it was, don't mean to say anymore at all. It's rare that it gets accepted right away for publication. More likely, in a perfect world, it gets a conditional acceptance with some feedback that the reviewers have identified they want you to take it to revise, to look at. It might be that you get rejected, but you still get I don't mean you get rejected, the manuscript does not get accepted, but you get the reviewer feedback. And this is also good news. This is part of the writing process, part of the publishing process. This is how the scientific community does peer review and makes articles not presentable, but makes sure that they're highest quality that they can be. I remember talking to a junior faculty at Scott and White Hospital in Temple, Texas. He told me that his first submission, did not get accepted. The manuscript got rejected, and he was devastated, he said, because the comments by the reviewers were longer than his manuscript itself, right? And so he was deflated, and he goes to his boss and he tells him, "Look, boss, look what an awful job I did. The reviewers had all these negative comments about it, more than," and his boss said, "Wait a second, are you kidding? This is good news. They've done all that work for you. Start retyping, start incorporating those ideas, or start examining those issues." Of course, if you agree with the reviewer comments, then by all means, it's easy to revise that. Let's say you agree with most of them, but let's say there's 1 or 2 that you don't agree with. Do you change them to reflect what the reviewers think anyway? No, because it's your intellectual property, as it were. Do you ignore those items completely? No, because if 2 expert reviewers out there brought it up as an issue, then there might be other readers who think about that. No, what you do is you bring up those issues, but you write what you think about them, right? For instance, you could say, one school of thought says this, that, and the other thing, however, and then you give your counter argument to it. So writing process and publishing process, again, is a process. It continues. And again, especially with grant applications. You cannot go into writing a grant application thinking that this is the one and only time. You got to look at it as not getting funded, getting the feedback, revising, resubmitting. Okay, so a quick summary of what we have addressed today. We talked about clarity. We talked about the writing process, how you can use writing as a tool for thinking. We talked about the value of taking an everyday approach to the writing process. You can do that for your personal statements, but likewise for the other types of writing you will have to do as a profession in the health sciences and the sciences in general. We talked about the natural positions of emphasis in the sentence and the paragraph, and we went through the structures of the report of original research. Again, the kind of gold standard type of report that scientists submit and look to get published and look to advance knowledge in the field. We talked about the process as far as submitting an article to a journal